The sun hung over Rome like a blade. 50,000 voices thundered through the Colosseum, a roar so loud it seemed to shake the heavens. Dust filled the air, the smell of sweat, iron, and fear mixed with incense. And yet, for a brief moment, even the mob fell silent, because what they saw was no longer sport. A condemned man, bound to a stake, screamed as fire crawled up his body. Lions circled, driven mad by hunger and heat. And the crowd, the same crowd that once cheered gladiators, now stared, uneasy, as Rome's thirst for spectacle crossed a line even they could feel. That was the moment when entertainment became horror, when Rome, in all her glory, revealed the darkness at her heart. The price of spectacle. Rome built its empire on power and fear, and nowhere was that power displayed more brutally than in its arenas. From the Colosseum to provincial amphitheaters across the empire, the games were not just entertainment, they were propaganda, reminders that the empire could give life and take it. The games were gifts from emperors, bread and circuses to keep the masses loyal. But each gift demanded a sacrifice. Every triumph, every festival, every emperor's birthday meant one thing: death in the arena. Thousands of slaves, criminals, prisoners of war, all doomed to die for spectacle. They called them munera, offerings, not to the gods, but to the people, and the people demanded blood. When Rome turned death into art. The morning hunts. At dawn, the Colosseum was already alive. The beginning not with men, but with animals. Hundreds of beasts, lions, tigers, elephants, leopards, crocodiles, starved for days, were released into the arena to be hunted by trained bestiari. The crowds cheered as arrows flew, as blood sprayed the sand. But this was only the beginning. Soon, prisoners were thrown in unarmed. Condemned men and women, stripped and terrified, were mauled alive. Their deaths were not punishment, they were choreography. Each act designed for beauty, the elegance of the kill, the artistry of cruelty. Rome turned death into theater, and the Colosseum became the stage where humanity itself was tested and broken. The mythological executions. By midday, the games shifted from animals to something darker. Executions disguised as plays. Condemned prisoners were forced to perform famous myths, except the deaths were real. A man playing Orpheus was torn apart by bears. A man cast as Icarus was hurled from a platform and shattered on the sand. Prometheus was chained to a rock as a vulture feasted on his flesh. Each performance was announced as art, but the screams told another story. For the Roman audience, this was justice, divine punishment reenacted before their eyes. For the victims, it was ritualized torture. And when the condemned fell silent, the crowd applauded, throwing flowers into the blood-stained arena. The gladiators' ordeal, the illusion of glory. By afternoon, the gladiators entered, the supposed stars of Rome's cruel theater. They were cheered like heroes, but they were property. Men branded, bought, and trained to die well. Most were slaves, criminals, or prisoners of war. A few volunteered, desperate men chasing money or fame. They fought not for freedom, but for survival. Each match was designed for contrast. A lightly armed retiarius, with net and trident, facing a heavily armored secutor. The crowd judged every move, their thumbs deciding who lived and who died. The emperor sat above them all, the master of fate. A raised thumb could grant mercy. A downward glance could end a life. It was power distilled into a gesture. The death games. Sometimes the fights went beyond sport. Emperors, eager to impress or to terrify, ordered battles to the last man. No surrender, no reprieve. Entire pairs of gladiators, or even whole schools, were forced to fight until none stood. When the sand grew slick with blood, workers raked it clean, covered it with fresh sand, and the games continued. The arena was an altar, and Rome demanded endless offerings. The day the spectacle crossed the line. Titus's 100 Days. In 80 CE, the Emperor Titus opened the Colosseum with games that lasted 100 days and nights. Thousands of animals were slaughtered. Hundreds of gladiators died. But even that was not enough to satisfy the crowd's hunger. On one day, Titus ordered the recreation of a naval battle inside the arena itself. The floor was flooded, ships clashed, men drowned. When the waters drained, the bodies of slaves and animals floated side by side. Rome applauded. And yet, even as they cheered, some wondered if the gods themselves had turned away. Commodus and the madness of the stage. 2 centuries later, the Emperor Commodus took the stage himself. He fancied himself a gladiator, stepping into the arena dressed in lion skins and golden armor. No opponent could strike him. Any who did were executed. He fought slaves, cripples, even wounded soldiers, killing them for applause. At one festival, Commodus ordered the beheading of 100 men with his own hand, boasting he was the reincarnation of Hercules. Rome's elite sat in silence, horrified, while the mob screamed his name. The empire's ruler had become the spectacle. And with him, the games crossed their final boundary, when the emperor himself turned murder into theater. The arena's darkest creations. Mock battles, real death. Some spectacles were so elaborate that they blurred the line between drama and massacre. Entire armies of prisoners were forced to reenact Rome's wars, Carthage, Troy, or Gaul. They were given real weapons, but no armor. The outcome was predetermined. They were all to die. One chronicler described the sand turning black from the blood of thousands. When the bodies were dragged away, the next act began, as if it were nothing. The beasts that wouldn't die. As Rome's empire expanded, so did its appetite for exotic slaughter. Elephants from Africa, bears from the Alps, crocodiles from the Nile, tigers from India, all brought to Rome to die for applause. Trainers tortured them into frenzy, burning them, starving them, stabbing them to keep them savage. Sometimes the beasts won. An elephant crushed a hunter beneath its weight. A lion tore free and leapt into the stands. The crowd screamed in panic, only to erupt in laughter moments later. For Rome, fear itself had become entertainment. The cruelest deaths of all. Not every condemned soul was a fighter. Crucifixion, burning, dismemberment, even being sewn into animal skins and left for the dogs. These were not punishments, they were performances, each one designed to draw gasps, to excite, to please. The Roman historian Seneca once wrote, "I turn away, yet I hear the cries, and still the crowd shouts for more." The silence beneath the applause. For centuries, the games continued, generation after generation watching others die. Children cheered their first executions. Old men recalled them with nostalgia. It became Rome's identity, its ritual, its religion. But the soul of the empire was changing. By the 4th century, whispers spread among the growing Christian population. Whispers that the games were not glory, but blasphemy. Some refused to attend, others protested. And then one day, something broke. The monk in the arena. In 404 CE, during a festival in Rome, a monk named Telemachus entered the Colosseum. He stepped onto the sand, shouting for the killing to stop. The crowd laughed. Then they turned on him. Stones flew. Telemachus fell, crushed beneath the fury of the mob. But his death shook the empire. Within the year, Emperor Honorius banned gladiatorial combat. The Colosseum fell silent. The gates rusted shut. And after centuries of blood, Rome finally looked at what it had become and felt shame. The price of civilization. Rome called itself the light of the world, the bringer of law and culture. Yet its proudest monument was an arena built for death. The games had begun as rituals of sacrifice meant to honor the dead. They ended as entertainment for the living, a reflection of an empire that could no longer see the line between justice and cruelty. For the emperors, the arena was a tool. For the people, it was escape. For the victims, it was hell. And for history, it was a warning. The memory that will not die. Today, the Colosseum stands in silence, its arches cracked, its sand long gone. But if you walk there at dawn when the streets are empty, you can still feel it. The weight of eyes, the echo of cheers, the ghosts of thousands who never left. They are buried beneath the stones, beneath centuries of dust. Rome's victims, Rome's offerings, the price of spectacle. Civilization is not measured by what it builds, but by what it chooses to destroy. Rome built wonders that still stand, but the sound that truly defined it was not marble being set, but the roar of the crowd, the crack of the whip, and the final scream before silence. The games ended, the empire fell, but the shadow of the Colosseum still reminds us, every empire that forgets its humanity will one day entertain itself to death.